There's a special kind of damage that doesn't come from crashes or bad luck. It comes from thinking you're doing the right thing. That's the danger of motorcycle myths. They don't just come from old-timers around the campfire. They come from forums, half-baked YouTubers, and even dealerships that should know better. The worst part, some of these myths sound totally logical until they slowly grind your bike into the grave. This video isn't just about calling out bad advice. It's about saving your engine, your wallet, and your dignity. Because there's nothing more embarrassing than killing your clutch gently or blowing your top end while thinking you're protecting it. So before you pour Seafoam into your airbox or run 94 octane in a 300cc commuter bike, watch this. These are the myths that quietly ruin motorcycles and the truth that'll keep yours alive. Number 1. Engine braking causes valve wear. Let's kill this one right away. Engine braking does not harm your valves. In fact, if anything, it's easier on your engine than constant acceleration. But somewhere along the way, people got it in their heads that using the engine to slow down is some sort of mechanical sin. The theory? The compression puts upward stress on the valve train, bending or wearing the valves prematurely. Total fiction. What's actually happening during engine braking is the combustion chamber is working in reverse. No fuel, no spark, just the pistons being slowed by resistance. It's a vacuum-rich situation, yes, but modern valve seals and guides are built to handle that with ease. The forces at play are way smaller than when you're hammering the throttle uphill. What really wears the valves? High RPMs, aggressive cam profiles, poor maintenance, or a clogged oil system. Engine braking? That's child's play in comparison. Ironically, not using engine braking can be worse for your brakes and ride control. Learning to use it well improves smoothness, traction, and overall safety. So next time someone tells you to avoid engine braking to save your engine, just smile, nod, and downshift like a grown-up. You're doing your bike a favor, whether they believe it or not. Number 2. You should use the highest octane possible in hot climates. This one just won't die. Somewhere, someone decided that hot weather equals high octane, and now riders are burning premium fuel like it's sunscreen. But unless your engine is pinging, knocking, or specifically tuned for it, extra octane is doing absolutely nothing except emptying your wallet. Octane isn't a measure of power, it's a measure of resistance to detonation. High-performance engines with high compression ratios and turbocharging need it, but your average street bike? It's running just fine on 87 or 89 if that's what the manual says. The ECU isn't suddenly gaining IQ points in the summer. If it's not detecting knock, it's not adjusting anything. Now, does hot air reduce performance? Yes, but that's due to air density, not octane. Adding 93 octane won't solve that. It just delays combustion slightly, and in some engines, it can hurt low-end response. This myth lives on because more is better feels safe. But modern bikes have knock sensors, fuel trims, and ECUs designed to compensate. Unless you've got a built motor or a specific tune, premium fuel in a low-octane bike is a placebo. Want real gains? Spend that extra cash on new tires, not fancy gas. You're riding, and your engine will thank you. Number 3. Frequent oil changes flush out metal break-in particles. There's this old school belief that a new bike needs an oil change every 50 miles, 100 miles, then 300 miles, and so on, like you're trying to flush out the glitter from a grenade. But here's the reality. Modern engines are manufactured to insanely tight tolerances. They're not full of mystery shavings just waiting to destroy themselves after mile 48. Break-in oil strategies used to make sense when engines were hand-fitted and machining was rougher. Today, factories pre-clean internals, use specialized coatings, and assemble in sterile conditions. The oil that comes with your new bike is often specially formulated for break-in and meant to stay in for the first 600 to 1,000 miles. Changing it too early isn't just unnecessary, it can screw up the very break-in process that's designed to seat your piston rings properly. You're pulling out additives that are supposed to help everything mesh together. Now, if you notice visible metal in your oil at 100 miles, sure, change it. That's a problem. But for everyone else, Follow the manual. The engineers know more than your Uncle Larry who built drag bikes in the 80s. Premature oil changes are like cutting your hair every 3 days to make it grow faster. Pointless, expensive, and based on superstition. Number 4. K&N air filters always increase power. Some riders slap a K&N filter on their bike like it's a performance miracle straight from the tuning gods. More airflow equals more power, right? Sounds good in theory. In reality, you might be paying more to gain absolutely nothing. Or worse, actually lose power. Oiled cotton filters like K&N can improve airflow, but only when your engine and ECU are tuned to take advantage of it. On most stock bikes, the extra air just throws off your air-fuel ratio because the ECU isn't calibrated to compensate. So what do you get? A leaner mixture, possible hesitation at throttle tip-in, and 0 horsepower gains unless you're lucky enough to be on a model that naturally adapts well. And let's not forget the dirt. These filters let in more particles than good paper or foam OEM filters. Unless you maintain them perfectly, they can actually accelerate engine wear over time. Great on a track-tuned sport bike with regular dyno runs. Not so great for your everyday commuter that hasn't seen a wrench in 6 months. This myth lives because people want bolt-on horsepower. But performance is never that easy. The truth? A filter alone rarely does squat, and if your buddy claims he felt the difference, chances are what he felt was just the placebo effect, and $90 missing from his wallet. Number 5. Higher gear saves your engine. Let's kill this myth once and for all. Riding in a high gear at low RPMs doesn't protect your engine. It's not being gentle, it's lugging. And lugging is just another word for mechanical suffocation. Some riders think cruising around in 5th or 6th gear at 2,000 RPM makes them smooth, mature, and fuel efficient. What they're actually doing is forcing the engine to work harder than necessary with less torque and oil pressure, while loading the crankshaft and transmission with unnecessary strain. You're not easing the workload, you're making it harder by giving it no mechanical leverage to work with. An engine is happiest in its torque band. That's where oil flow, combustion timing, and gear ratios all come together in harmony. Drop below that zone and you're inviting pinging, misfires, detonation, and eventually, long-term bottom-end wear. You'll hear guys defend this with, "It feels smoother." But that's just the engine struggling quietly. It's not screaming, so they think it's fine. But a quiet groan is still a groan. Want to save your engine? Downshift. Let it breathe. Use the RPM range it was designed for. Riding a gear too high is like lifting weights with locked knees. It might seem stable, but the damage adds up fast. Number 6. Seafoam fixes everything. Ah, yes, the Seafoam cult. Somewhere along the line, this fuel additive turned into the motorcycling world's version of snake oil. Got carbon buildup? Seafoam. Rough idle? Seafoam. No girlfriend? Seafoam. Some folks treat it like holy water. Just dump it in the tank, and blessed be thy combustion. Now, don't get me wrong, Seafoam does have legit uses. It can clean injectors, stabilize fuel, and break down gunk in moderation. But what people don't tell you is that dumping it into every tank, every ride, like it's vitamins for your bike, can do more harm than good. Overuse can foul your spark plugs, clog your injectors, and make your exhaust smell like a science experiment gone wrong. It's even worse when riders pour it straight into the intake or crankcase like it's a deep tissue massage for the engine. Unless you're correcting a real issue, and you know what you're doing, it's often just wishful thinking in a can. If your bike's running like garbage, Seafoam won't fix worn rings, bad compression, or old gas that smells like varnish. It's a tool, not a miracle cure. So yes, keep a can in the garage. Don't worship it. Use it smart, or you're just foaming at the mouth. Number 7. All chain tension specs are the same. Walk into any bike meet and you'll hear it. Just leave about an inch of slack, bro. And that's how you know someone's setting up their chain like it's a universal IKEA shelf. Same parts, same tools, same outcome. Except it's not. Chain tension isn't a one-size-fits-all number. It's specific, sometimes annoyingly so. Different bikes have different swing arm lengths, suspension travel, chain angles, sprocket sizes, and yes, all of that affects how much slack your chain needs. That 1-inch rule? It might be perfect on one bike and a recipe for snap chains or destroyed output shaft bearings on another. You slam the suspension on a bike with too tight chain tension, you're asking for early wear at best, catastrophic failure at worst. And don't even get me started on people checking slack on a side stand. Unless your bike's manual specifically says that's how to do it, you're just lying to yourself with a tape measure. The irony, the exact spec is right there in your manual, usually in bold. Yet riders ignore it and go full vibes-based maintenance instead. You're not estimating a pizza slice, you're maintaining your final drive. Stop guessing, start measuring, or prepare to learn the hard way what a seized countershaft feels like. Number 8. Wet clutch means you can slip it forever without damage. This one's got more riders fooled than a fake dyno chart on Craigslist. Just because your clutch is sitting in a bath of oil doesn't mean it's immortal. Oh, it's a wet clutch. You can slip it all day. Sure, and I can wear socks in the rain. Doesn't mean I should go hiking through a swamp. Yes, wet clutches handle heat and abuse better than dry clutches. That's their whole job. Deal with some slippage while keeping cool. But even they have limits. And a lot of riders hit those limits without even knowing it. You ride in stop-and-go traffic, feathering the clutch constantly? You ride off-road and use clutch control instead of throttle finesse? That heat builds, fast. And oil or not, those plates can glaze, warp, or just plain give up. Here's the other catch. Riding for too long in the friction zone, especially under load, doesn't just toast the plates. It also cooks the oil. That same oil that's supposed to protect your transmission, your gears, and your engine. Burn it too often, and you're wearing out more than just the clutch. So no, a wet clutch isn't invincible. It's forgiving. And like any forgiving partner, push it too far, and it'll leave you stranded. Literally. Number 9. Your bike will run better if you remove emissions gear. This myth is like a rite of passage in certain circles. You buy a new bike, someone on a forum tells you to rip off the EVAP canister and AIS system because it's choking your power, bro. And suddenly every rider with a screwdriver thinks they're undoing the work of evil government wizards. Here's the truth. Modern emission systems are surprisingly efficient. That charcoal canister, it's just there to trap fuel vapors, not strangle your engine. The AIS, that's the air injection system, it injects air into the exhaust to help burn off extra hydrocarbons, not mess with your power band. Most of these systems aren't even active under throttle, but yank them off without retuning, and now you've got an air-fuel ratio that's out of whack, backfires that'll make your neighbors hate you, and throttle response that feels like molasses. Worse, you might actually lose performance. Some bikes will throw codes, others will adjust fueling in weird ways, and if you're in a state with emissions testing, congrats, now your bike fails inspection. Unless you're doing a full performance tune with a mapped ECU, you're not freeing anything. You're just unplugging stuff you don't understand and hoping the bike doesn't notice. Spoiler, it usually does. Number 10. Thicker oil protects your engine better. This one sounds so logical it tricks even seasoned riders. Thicker oil cushions better, right? It's like a stronger shield between parts. Yeah, and concrete makes great soup if you ignore physics. Here's what actually happens when you pour 20W50 into an engine built for 10W40. When the engine's cold, which is when most engine wear happens, that thicker oil takes longer to flow. Your top end runs dry for a few seconds longer. Cold starts go from quick film of protection to let's hope the cam lobes survive this. Not ideal. Now flip to the other end. When you're riding hard, that thicker oil might not flow fast enough through tight clearances. Modern engines are engineered to specific tolerances, and oil viscosity is part of that math. Go too thick and you're creating pressure drop, oil starvation, overheating, and sludge buildup. It's not extra protection, it's sabotage. Thicker oil also drags your clutch more in wet clutch bikes. More slip, more heat, more wear. You thought you were helping your engine, but now you're burning through clutches like brake pads on track day. Moral of the story? Stick with the factory recommendation. Engineers know better than your buddy who runs diesel oil in his Ninja because feels smoother. Number 11. You need to start your bike every week in winter. Letting your bike idle in the garage for 5 minutes every Sunday might feel like good ownership, but it's secretly one of the dumbest habits you can have during storage season. You're not helping the engine, you're just giving condensation a warm hug. See, short starts in cold weather don't heat the engine enough to burn off moisture inside the oil. You're creating steam that just sits there, creeping into the crankcase, corroding internals, and thinning the oil. It's like inviting rust to come hang out for the winter. Worse, you're draining your battery faster. Modern bikes use power even when off. ECUs, clocks, immobilizers. Starting the bike without a real ride doesn't recharge the battery. It's like taking one sip of water before running a marathon. Eventually, you'll go to start the bike in the spring and click. If you're really worried, use a battery tender and stabilize your fuel. That does more than any half-hearted winter rev session. And if your storage space is unheated, even better. Less temp fluctuation means less condensation. The bike doesn't need to feel loved every week. Just store it properly, let it rest, and you'll both be happier when riding season rolls around. Save the warm-ups for humans. Number 12. You can tune any bike with a Power Commander. Power Commanders used to be the holy grail of DIY tuning. Slip one in, adjust a few values, and bam, instant performance gains. But times have changed, and if you're still relying on a Power Commander like it's 2008, you're living in the past, and probably wasting money. Here's the truth. Power Commanders only work well on certain fuel-injected bikes, mainly older ones with simple ECUs. Modern motorcycles, not so much. Many newer models use ride-by-wire throttles and closed-loop systems with advanced ECU control. That means the bike's brain constantly overrides the changes your Power Commander tries to make. You end up with a bike that feels inconsistent, or worse, runs worse than stock. And no, the answer isn't to stack mods on mods. Piggybacking devices and auto-tuners just confuses the ECU even more. If you want real performance tuning on a modern bike, you need an ECU flash. That means rewriting the brain itself, not just feeding it bad advice from a $300 Band-Aid. Yes, it's more complex and usually requires a pro, but the result is a bike that runs smoother, makes real power, and doesn't fight itself. So unless you ride an old-school sport bike, the Power Commander hype is just that. Hype. Don't fall for yesterday's tech in tomorrow's bike. Number 13. Grease in the axle keeps it from seizing. This one sounds smart, right? Grease the axle and it won't seize in the swing arm. But here's a problem. Most riders are greasing the wrong part. They smear a bunch of lube across the axle shaft, push it through, tighten everything down, and think they've done their job. Except the axle shaft doesn't seize in the center. It seizes at the contact points. The spacer faces, the axle nut threads, the inner sleeves of the bearings, and especially where dissimilar metals meet, like steel inside an aluminum swing arm. If you're not greasing those critical interfaces, the flat faces, the collars, and the nut threads, you're basically lubing a part that doesn't move and ignoring the spots that do. And if water or corrosion creeps into those dry spots, good luck getting the axle out next time. Hope you enjoy sledgehammering your swing arm. Also, don't confuse grease with anti-seize. Anti-seize is great for threads and metal-on-metal surfaces where corrosion is likely. But grease can actually attract more grime in the wrong places and make things worse. Bottom line, smart maintenance isn't just grease it and forget it. It's knowing where and why you grease. Blindly slathering lube on an axle won't save you. Might even trap you. So, if you've been babying your engine with thick oil, slipping your clutch like it's made of titanium, or dumping octane booster into a 250cc commuter, don't feel bad. Just stop doing it. Because here's the real kicker. Most mechanical damage doesn't happen from catastrophic failures. It builds slowly from bad habits and misunderstood maintenance. The difference between a bike that lasts 80,000 miles and one that clunks out at 30,000? Usually not the brand, it's the rider. Now, I want to hear from you. What's the worst mechanical myth you used to believe? Or better yet, what's a myth you still hear people swear by today that just drives you nuts? Drop it in the comments. Let's kill these myths once and for all, before they kill more bikes.